Do you remember? I don't know if you were on the old show, The Black Lotus. You remember that
No.
show? It was. I couldn't remember. Like, there's been a lot of people I have on here that were on there and on here as well. But Wild Trees, my co-host, was the one of the producers for 'em. They had a couple thousand followers,
Okay.
and that's where our people come from. Our commenters. They kind of just followed us over to here because that show dismantled because of medical reasons, and so they just kind of come over here, kind of just to scratch the itch. We're not nearly as scientific as they are.
Wow. Right on. Well, that's okay. That's great.
Oh yeah, well, we are live. Welcome everybody. Let me just tell everybody how to find me here. I'll be at the bobbydizzle.com. Just as a couple of announcements I've made in the last couple of weeks. I'm reconstructing that site because my old hosting platform took it all down and ripped it to shreds, and I built it for a year and it made me cry. I'm over it. I'm over it. But yeah, it's coming back. I'm putting the post up one by one. This one will be up in a couple of days once YouTube lets me download it and upload the audio version. And you can follow it there. And of course, all the ways to like and all the ways to follow me are in the description and at bobbydizzle.com. I kind of butchered that because I'm not doing my typical start. It's okay though. But today we have Katie Turner. She's a psychic medium. Katie, how's it going? We've been talking for a couple of minutes. You seem to be doing
Oh,
fine other than
thank
getting over
you.
that
I'm
cold.
just getting over the flu, so I apologize.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm good old kill day. No, my family was hit with the flu, and so we're getting through it. I'm on the upswing fitness, but thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, the flu is a beast. Let me let everybody know who you are because it's really interesting. For I just did a little paraphrase of your bio, and for the most of your life, you were sensitive. You discovered you've been sensitive to paranormal, and as a small child, you noticed that family
Yes.
members who had passed away would appear at your bedroom to send messages to loved ones. And as you were coming of age, you became aware of your psychic abilities, clairvoyance, and being an empath. And you had several other abilities, but they were really hard to say. So I just put was the Claire. I can't even think of it. Claire audience is that one? I said I call it the Claire family. Oh, she dropped off.
So there's
Oh,
we're glitching a
oh, there
little
she
bit.
is.
For everybody, my the gerbils in my internet box aren't working very well. So I tell
Whatever
everybody,
just happened looks better.
okay, good. Well, the
Yeah.
gerbils in my internet box are not happy. So what happens is they're not running fast enough, and therefore the internet is too slow. So I apologize if I glitch out.
Yeah.
So basically, I tell people I have 5 different antennas that I use. So I'm a psychic medium. It all started when I was very young.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up on a haunted farm, and I started having experiences at a really young age. I was really intrigued by this. I wasn't afraid. My family's very, very open to it. And so I was really lucky because they encouraged me to continue with what I was seeing. And so I would get messages from loved ones. I would see premonitions and so on. And so as I got older, these things just started getting more intense. And that's when I'm dating myself, but that's when I went into the library before the internet, and I started doing research on different abilities, trying to understand it. At the same time, I did a lot of research on paranormal activity. And it was at that point that I decided in high school and in college that I was actually going to start, very amateurly, may I add, paranormal investigating. And so I would go to haunted locations with friends, and I would take, old cameras, and I would take, old audio recorders, and I would try to record something to prove that I wasn't crazy. And so that's basically how it happened for me. And through that, I started to learn that, I'm clairaudient, which is the act of hearing. I can hear
That's what
them.
it was. That's what it
I'm
was.
clairvoyant. I can see. I'm claircognizant, which is the act of knowing. Or clairconscient. Empathic means I pick up on symptoms, whether it be physical or metaphoric. So there's clairaudient, clairsentient, clairvoyant, clairconscient, which is the act of knowing. And so I get all of these different antennas, and I receive or download information in different ways in order for me to kind of process it, metabolize it, and pass it on to you.
Wow. Yeah, that Claire audience was the one I couldn't think of.
Mhm.
I kind of broke it down. When it comes to when you had the premonitions, what was the first one that happened where you were like, "Crap, this is real"? when it came to knowing something that happened in the future? Was it like a national event, or was it like something normal that happened, or something that happened like locally?
So so growing up on a farm, one of the first premonitions that I can remember that I was really shocked about was I had a premonition that there were lambs being born in the barn. And I got up in the morning and I had said to my mom, Mom, I had this vision. I had just woken up from the morning, and I was laying there. I hadn't even kind of opened my eyes, and all of a sudden all these downloads started happening. And my mother, physiologically it shouldn't be happening at this point because that was a breeding season. And I said, well, this is what I'm seeing. And lo and behold, I walked into the barn that morning to do chores, and there were lambs on the ground. And what had happened was there was a mixture of the herd, and nature took its course, and we didn't realize that it was going to happen, but it happened. So, as a kid, that was pretty exciting to me. As I got older, the premonitions kind of got bigger, and messages from loved ones, I was able to kind of pass on those messages and let people know, that they're missing them, or validate things for people. And that's how it started.
So the lamb thing must have been the dead of winter if you weren't expecting it to happen.
No, it was we usually we would start lambing in March, April. We did have 2 lambing seasons at that time. One was early, one was late. But no, this was definitely before the animals were supposed to drop. So yeah.
Oh yeah. I used to raise goats, so I know you don't want them having them in the middle of the dead of winter, because they'll get eaten by coyotes and such. Yeah, I just realized you're my first Canadian guest I've had on here.
Well, thank you,
Across. Yeah, I had my notes in here, so I forgot about that.
So I'll just let you know. So I'm going to say sorry a lot.
Sorry.
We say process, not process. There's a few things that we say. We drink pop, not soda. There's a few
things. Tim Hortons.
You go to Timmy's. Yeah, we go to Timmy's.
When I was little, I used to watch Fred Penner's Place. And
Fred Penner, gotta love him.
Mr. Dress Up and Under the Umbrella Tree.
Yes.
Every time I see the iguana, I think of that damn show.
Yep.
So when you said you did paranormal investigations, is that just strictly like the ghost variety of it, or you ever go into any cryptid kind of things or UFO kind of?
So we have dealt with. So I'm founder and lead investigator of the Canadian Supernatural Research Society. We're operated today. We've conducted 99% of our investigations are residential. We don't have a lot of public haunts like you guys do. I get calls 24 hours a day, 7 days a week from people who feel that they're experiencing a haunting. And a lot of the stuff we deal with is very, it's private. People don't want to know, other people's business in terms of they feel crazy, right? They call me, they think there's something attacking them. It's something they want kept private. So we do a lot of private cases, residential. We have dealt with cryptids, multiple occasions we've dealt with cryptids. We've done some Bigfoot investigations. So we've kind of full spectrum of things. There are things that I've witnessed that had I not witnessed them in the presence of other people, you would think I'm off my meds, or somebody would be off their meds. But we did witness them. They did happen. And they were definitely paranormal or cryptid as such.
What would be a good example of those? I always love to hear the real life tales.
Okay, so one of the scariest stories, and actually it was aired on season 5 of Paranormal Survivor, it was a story of a lizard being, a lizard type entity that was haunting a local residents, and it was scratching the children and affecting the youngest child, which was only 10 months at the time. And we had to go in and it was a very intense investigation. We were quite intimidated. It was something I did not know what I was walking into. And basically we had to go in and, we collected the evidence, and we had to cleanse. And to this day, we don't know if it ever truly left. It stopped affecting the family, which was good, but you never know, right? You never know what's actually going to happen.
And you said it was a lizard. Did you see it? Or
yeah, I did. I saw it with my own eyes. Yes, I did. In the presence of other members as well. We did see it. It was a lizard-like being. It was a bipedal humanoid figure with the appearance of a lizard face. Yeah.
That's incredible. I've heard talked to like half a dozen people that've seen those. I'm like, that's like the one that's so far out there to me. Like you
Agreed.
got the Bigfoot's right here because that's personal to me, and you
Hmm.
got Dog Man, and over here is Lizard. And I hear Lizard, I'm like, they're just as serious.
Yep.
Like, was it
And
solid or like pop in and out like a ghost kind
no,
of wolf?
it was definitely pop in and out. The only way I can describe it to you would be like it would not be an anomaly like a full body apparition. It wouldn't be apparitional. Like it was definitely denser, or it had a solid format,
Mm-hmm.
but it still had the appearance of a heat wave. Okay, you could
Wow.
tell, and the EMF was not as easily affected as something paranormal. Usually when
Mm-hmm.
we have something, trying to manifest or fully manifesting, at least coming into the atmosphere, you'll get those EMF spikes. We never had that. We never, it didn't, it made a lot of popping noises, but we didn't have the same type of experience.
Just to know cameras draining as soon as it happened, that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
what it was doing was it wasn't necessarily draining the batteries in the cameras, but it was making the cameras malfunction. Yeah.
That seems to be across the board with all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I talk to Bigfoot witnesses, I talk to UFO witnesses,
Mm-hmm.
and it's more of the paranormal. Is that a word?
Yep.
Paranormal, more.
Yeah.
The more things that are closer to you, the ones that destroy your camera, Skinwalker style. Everything that happens to Skinwalker just destroys
Mm-hmm.
camera equipment, drains it.
Yep.
Like I
Agreed.
even heard stories where
Agreed.
Bigfoot rips the cameras off the trees.
Mm-hmm. We had, so one of the Bigfoot investigations, we haven't done many. We're very amateur at that. And I certainly, if somebody was having, like, I know when it's above my pay grade in the sense,
Mm,
metaphorically, in the sense to, when to call in people who are a lot more knowledgeable in that sense. And I have some really great friends that are very much in the know of that stuff, and cryptozoologists and stuff like that. But one of the cases that we dealt with, actually, that's exactly what it did. Is it actually took the camera trail cam. The trail cam was 12 feet, 12 feet
hmm,
above. We figured that would be high enough. Bigfoot's, they're tall,
yeah.
but this was 12 feet off the ground. We had to get a ladder to install it, and it was able to get it off. But it did return the camera. So 2 days later,
Yeah.
when we went back to retrieve the other things, it brought the camera back. We have no idea why. And when we researched the footage, when we went and brought all the footage, everything was pixelated, but you could tell it was not a person that came in and did this. You could tell that it was an energetic being that came in, but you couldn't make out what it was. All of a sudden, the
Mm-hmm.
camera was dead, and then it started again. But there was about 50 to 60 photos before that of deer, of nature, of winds. We knew that the camera was functioning properly, but as soon as that Bigfoot came in, it had caused the problem. Yeah.
It's insane how that works. I've heard that so many times, and to me, the fact that that's getting more popular now is more optimistic of it may come into fruition. That maybe there will be some proof before too much longer. Did they
Yes, for
have
sure.
any of the white fingerprints on the camera or anything around it?
Nothing. We didn't see anything. Nothing. And unfortunately, it had snowed the night before, or
Oh,
the 2 nights before, but the snow had melted. So there was nothing that we could even get prints, and it was too wet for, everything had kind of,
yeah.
it just was very circumstantial. We couldn't get any more evidence than that. We did capture some paranormal stuff there too. So it was kind of, we had gotten some EVPs and stuff like that on a paranormal nature. So it was a double experience, but it was a really cool experience.
What would your terminology be for an area that was where the veil was thin like that in a Bigfoot high area to where other cryptids come through? What's the terminology for that in your field?
Uh,
We just call it the veil, but
yeah,
there's got to be a better.
I like to call it a portal, a haunted
Yeah.
highway portal, a vortex. It's a thinning of the area where things can come in and out. It's a whirling dervish of energy. A lot of times, you'll feel dizzy, or you'll feel kind of winded, disoriented, those types of
Hmm.
things. But yeah, no, I often call them uh, portals.
Yeah, I mean I guess that's a good broad one. But you can see an actual portal when it opens too. The Northern Lights look. I don't know if you ever
Yes.
seen anything like that before.
Oh, the Northern Lights. Yes, we have them up here. They're
Well,
absolutely gorgeous.
when a portal opens, it looks like that kind of. It has like that glow coming out of it.
So I feel the energy. We've had some photos. We've had some really wicked photos of portals.
Mhm.
I would more take it like a smoke show, if that makes sense. So there's a smokiness to it.
Mhm.
As far as colors like an aura, I see auras everywhere. So for me, looking at you,
Oh
I
yeah.
see aura. Looking at trees, I see an aura. There's auras everywhere. So it's hard for me to differentiate that. I would pick it up as more like a smoky feeling.
Okay, it's a different kind of look to it. Yeah, we had a guy up in Minnesota tell us about they were sitting in a tree stand in a Bigfoot area, and he saw one open up. He said it was like the Northern Lights just pouring out of a doorway.
Mhm,
And so far, the Northern Lights thing has been consistent, kind of, but the doorway haven't. So maybe there's
mhm.
just different kinds.
No, for sure.
We
Yeah,
we did have a couple of questions pop up while we were talking though. Got kind of
absolutely.
deep.
Yes.
Here's
Sure.
from Mindy. She is one of my friends who
Mhm.
is a biologist. She's a doctorate in biology. She was thinking anything specific on Bigfoot, and we just did that. Very specific.
Yeah.
Scotty B, I'm big. I'm not like a paranormal channel specifically, but Bigfoot's one of my interests, so we'll go there all the time.
Right on. Right on.
Scotty B said any orbs, and we
Have
just
I
talked about.
captured? Have I ever captured any orbs? Many, but not all orbs are orbs. There's a huge controversy in the paranormal community whether orbs are dust particles, bugs,
Mhm.
lens flare, all of that stuff. And a lot of times they are. I often encourage people to really dissect their photos. A friend of mine on the podcast that a friend of mine and I do, Richard, we talk about this quite often in the sense that it's really important to dissect your photos, make sure you know what you're getting into, looking at colors, looking at hues, looking at contrasts, because sometimes it can get away from you and you can think that they're orbs, but they're really
Mhm.
dust particles. Orbs are kind of three-dimensional, they're directional. A lot of times when you get pictures of orbs, you're going to get other hits on other pieces of equipment. So whether it's, a popping sound through a spirit box, something through, your audio recorder or video recorder, but you're going to notice it's not just the orb being taken.
Mhm.
There's other things happening, cold flexes in temperature or changes in EMF. All of that is occurring at the same time.
Yeah, orbs are fascinating. When you said you used old cameras, that's how I knew you were legit. Like that because they're the only ones that pick up the things right.
Well, you know what? Some of the best photos I've ever had, honest to God, was on a cell phone.
Yeah.
One of the best photos I've ever captured, it was of a spirit of a cat. And I can certainly put it in the comments after we're done, but it was caught with a cell phone. There was no intentions of having that.
Mhm.
We were at an investigation, but I was taking aerial photos to make sure that, I like a pre-investigation, post-investigation to make sure that everything is as it is. And I snapped the photo, and lo and behold, we ended up capturing this spirit of a cat, and it is a beautiful, beautiful Class A photo.
Wow.
There's no faking it. There's no, it's beautiful. I'll put it in the comments after the show.
Especially a cat too. It's like the most haunted animal there is.
Yep, absolutely. And not only did we capture that cat in photo, we got it on audio and we got it on video making noises at the same time. So it's like double whammy, the holy grail of stuff. Now, could the cat talk back? No, it couldn't, but it certainly made its place, where we knew it was a cat.
Yeah, no mistaking there.
Mhm.
Scotty B was talking about the lizard person. He said, "Looks like he knows where his ex went." Yeah,
Good
we found her,
Lord.
Scotty. She's she's going downhill. She misses you. Where was it? What kind of place has a haunted cat though? It's not like a
So
old
I'll
house.
give you the backstory. So we get a phone call from a lady who swore up and down that her house was haunted. She had been to the church. She'd asked for holy water. She had gotten all of that stuff. She was very, very worried that there's this entity scratching her, and so she immediately was getting holy water, putting church paraphernalia around, getting the priest to do blessings, and
Mhm.
nothing was working. And so she called us and she said, "Can you please come in and let me know what's going on?" So when we got into the house, I like to go in, as a psychic medium, while my team is setting up equipment. I like to go in and just have a walk around and get my feel, find out what exactly is going on in the house on a psychic basis. So as soon as I walked into the house, I said to her, "I can hear a cat," and she said, "I
Mm.
don't own a cat." I went, "Oh,
Ooh,
okay."
I'm out.
So part of our preliminary is what we do is we we will, have an interview process. We will ask questions. And part of the questions are, do you have any animals? Because we don't want to stress the animals out when we're coming in. There's a bunch of strangers walking into the location. We want to make sure that, everybody is copacetic. And so when I said to her, I heard a cat, in the preliminary, you said there was no animals, and she said, I don't own a cat. So went ahead, kept getting these EVP hits, and started snapping photos. And once I was able to show her that photo on site, I was like, okay, like, I'm telling you, this is the spirit of the cat. Is when she came clean and said, well, my cat died 2 months ago, and this is why I tell you I don't have a cat. And I said, well, how long ago did the activity start? And she said, about 2 months ago. And what was happening was the spirit of her cat was jumping up on her when she was laying in bed, and it was crawling up her to sleep with her at night. And she was feeling this crawling sensation and scratches. She was getting these scratches from this cat. And that's all it was the spirit of this cat. But she was afraid it was demonic because of the scratches, right? And of course, a priest coming in doing a blessing isn't going to affect this cat because it's a cat. So once we were able to kind of, psychically, I could pick up on it, correlate it with the evidence, go ahead and, prove to her that this is in fact what it is. The activity ceased. She was able to calm down, and all went back to normal.
And it makes you wonder how many demonic possessions have been blamed on, or how many cat hauntings have been blamed on demonic possessions now.
Oh, there's lots. There's lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots. Like, there's tons. So really what happens is people go to worst case scenario. So people are, they're worried. They watch television. That's one of the reasons why I do television, to, try to speak my truth and try to explain to people that, it's not as all it seems. Hollywood is a wonderful way of doing things, and it's great for entertainment, but not everything is, number one, paranormal, and number two, demonic in nature.
Yeah.
Demonic energy is something that doesn't jump out and say, boo, I'm here. Demonic energy or demonic entities try to make you, they do four things. Those: oppression, suppression, depression, and possession. So they try to separate you from your family, separate you from your mind, separate you, and basically they're trying to take your will. They're not going to jump out and scare you and say, hi, I'm a demon, I'm here. They're going to do a real good job of trying to make you look crazy, right? So basically, it's not as evident as it looks. And when people come to me with scratches, we try to rule that out first. I'm not saying I don't believe it, but we try to rule those scenarios out first. And 9 times out of 10, that's exactly what it is. It's a dog, it's a cat, it's, Aunt Joan, she's frustrated because she's been trying to get a hold of you for 2 months. You're not answering, so she's going to start throwing things, right? To get your attention.
Aunt Joan.
Right?
Yeah, Aunt Joan's pissed. You
Right?
broke her gravy boat at the wake, and she'll never forgive you.
Right? Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, a lot of people I've talked to go straight to demons.
Yes.
I'm like, that can't be
That's what the doctor.
And I'm actually, I don't know a religious affiliation you have, if any. I was raised Catholic. I'm kind of back and forth depending on how late I stayed out on Saturday night, how Catholic I am. But they do the demon thing.
Yeah, I utilize all different types of religion. I respect all different Islamic, Christian, Buddhist, First Nations, pagan, all of that stuff. We deal with a lot of different things. So depending on the case scenario I walk into, I have respect for all of them. Is what we're going to deal with. If I'm walking into an indigenous atmosphere, holy water is not going to be as respected as sage and certain different smudging techniques. So it really depends on what we're dealing with.
So you've had dealings with, like, lack of a better term, Indian burial ground kind of hauntings, kind of the Native American spirits?
Absolutely, yes.
They seem to be the most aggressive ones that you hear about. Like, they don't just go away. You got to appease them.
I find that they're very territorial, right? They respect the land. They their heart and soul is into it. And so a lot of times with an indigenous atmosphere, you're also dealing with elemental spirits. So it's not necessarily the indigenous that are hard to get rid of. It's the elementals that are very, very hard to get rid of. And you're dealing with something that really worshiped the land and respected it. And most of the time when they're aggressive, or they're very possessive about it, it's because there's something that you have done to disrespect that land or disrespect them. You've made changes that they don't feel is worthy, or you have, questioned their value. And so, of course, they're going to fight back.
And you put a school in a graveyard and stuff like that. It's
exactly
get them fired up real quick. Yeah, the elemental thing. I didn't realize that was such a. I didn't realize it was such a mainstream, I guess, paranormal topic until you start talking to these Bigfoot guys and they see all the other. They experience like the elemental evil or not so evil elementals, like getting in their house and causing poltergeist and night terrors.
Got it. Yes. Yep. Yeah, there's I've had many different dealings. The hardest experiences of getting rid of an elemental attachment, is much harder than a spirit. A lot of times when you're dealing with, so let me back it up a little bit. It's not just ghosts, elementals, cryptids and so on. There's even subcategories into that. So when I talk about paranormal activity and I talk about ghosts, I identify as two different things. I identify as ghosts and spirits. Okay. To me, ghosts are earthbound entities. They're the ones that stay and truly haunt. So I tell people, if I died as Katie and I didn't transition to the other side, I would only I would only ever remember Katie's thoughts. And so I would haunt, I would stay in that present form or in that consciousness, and I would haunt. As a spirit, you transition over, for example, my grandfather, he comes to visit all the time. He's my grandfather when he comes to see me, but he's really not my grandfather anymore. So, for me, you got to categorize it for that. And when you go into a haunting, and a true haunting where there's a spirit or a ghost rather that is territorial over that place because they love that house, they think it as their house. You're moving in on their territory. Yeah, once you kind of explain to them that they've passed, they may not know they're dead. You've explained to them that you're not here to hurt them. You want to document them. You want to help them cross over, transition. They really sometimes are willing to want to transition. They don't even know they're stuck. So you're helping them to cross over or banish them if they're not good. It's the spirits, the elementals that were here long before we were here. That own the land, that own that those are the tough ones. When they, dealing with wraiths and my colleague Richard has dealt with bogarts. Like they're boggarts, however you potato. They're tough little beings. That they're little elven beings that don't want to get rid of. I've dealt with hags. I've dealt with wraiths. I've dealt with we've had cases where somebody had documented fairies, talked about fairies and stuff like that. So sometimes it's not necessarily easy to deal with. I've
never heard of a bogart, whatever you're saying.
Bogart.
I've heard of wraiths.
Bogart. Basically what they are is, think of it like, Dobby on the Hobbit, or on the Hobbit, on Harry Potter.
Master's giving Dobby a sock.
He's kind of like that. And he's kind of like, he comes in and out and he can cause some issues. They're not evil, but they're there. And, my colleague Richard has talked a lot about it. He has a resident there that has a lot of those issues, and every time they go in, they see this thing, and he just wants to be documented. He wants to be seen.
That's amazing. I'm going to get Richard on here.
Yeah,
I wrote that down on the way. I said, "Yeah, here's another guy." Especially if he's seen things like that.
Absolutely, he's a guru for sure.
I'm one guest away from just turning this into straight paranormal. That's all I want to talk about.
Right on.
I'll get to work. I'm like, do you believe what they're saying? I was like, I don't even care. That's it's like a pool I'm swimming in. I mean, who cares what's in it? I know a couple of people smoke up my skirt, but some I can't help but think are 100%.
Yep. Yeah, no, you know what? I tell people, once you see it, you can't unsee it. I'm very fortunate. I've been doing this for almost 22 years now, paranormal investigating, and the things that I've witnessed, you can't unsee. And some of the documentation that I have, you can't undocument that. And that's what keeps us going back for more. I'm not, I started out in this industry trying to prove to myself that I wasn't crazy. I don't need that proof anymore. I'm a full-time psychic medium now, so I do readings, every day. That's my day job, and at night I am doing paranormal investigations or assisting in missing persons cases, or helping psychic children. So it's it's my life, and you're constantly that dog
Hmm.
with a bone trying to get that holy grail of evidence.
Yeah, I always say if I was someone like say like you just said the dog with the bone, I gotta have it. Or if you own 20 acres and you saw a Sasquatch on it and it's not a bear, you saw its face. Like how do you go to work the next day? I tell them like
Right.
how do you have a job knowing that's out there? But I
Yeah,
guess you got to go to work in some cases. But what's crazy to me is I have a coworker whose mom was on here and she's kind of like you. She has kind of the same story.
right. Right on.
I don't think she pursues it as hard, but the fact that she's definitely not telling she's not lying about it. This is a credible person. That freaks me out. Like this person's not somebody that's just a charlatan popping in.
Yeah,
The fact
no,
that
it's
it could be real. Like, oh my god.
yeah, no, it's a really, I encourage anybody. My thing, what I really kind of encourage with people is if you choose to, I never discourage paranormal investigations. I never discourage, if you want answers, I tell everybody always try to find the answers you seek, but just know what you're getting into.
Hmm.
Paranormal is a dangerous field. Not only are you walking around in the dark and you could, fall down a shaft, or,
Oh yeah.
hurt yourself, but on a paranormal level, people don't realize that it can kill you. I have a colleague on one of the TV shows that I do. She's dead because of it. She was a very well-known psychic medium and it overtook her. I know multiple people that have now died as a result of a direct demonic attack. A friend of mine, actually, who is a very well-known demonologist down in the South, the Cajun demonologist, Jeremy Leonard. He was just been aired on 28 Days Haunted, and he was on a couple other shows. He had a heart attack. He had a massive heart attack. And as a matter of fact, that heart attack occurred, the first mild heart attack occurred while he was investigating and doing the show of 28 Days Haunted. So, it is very real. People don't realize that this is something that has to be taken seriously. And so when you want to experience these things and you want to go to haunts and you want to, try to do that, just know how to protect yourself, and know that even though you may be good at what you do, you may be very experienced and protected. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Oh yeah. Is there anything you recommend that you just shouldn't do when it comes to that kind of
Um,
thing? If you just want to do
I
an
think
investigation?
Well, I think that if you really want to get into an investigation, don't go alone. That's the first thing. Never,
Mm,
ever, ever go alone. I think it's important that you research some public investigation haunts if you can. So, as I said earlier, up here in Canada, we don't have the same amount of public haunts as you guys do down in the States. But, I encourage you to try to source that out. Find a
hmm.
place that, you can go and you can haunt that has something that's malevolent, like that's benign, that's happy, that's not evil. And try and have experiences that way. And also, really do research and try to find a team that you can mentor with that can teach you how to use the equipment properly. There's too many people walking out, buying a piece of equipment and not really experimenting or understanding fully how the equipment works, and putting themselves at risk in that regard too.
Yeah, it's like playing with a gun. Why would you do that?
Right?
That's that's just as dangerous. Yeah, I would. I almost want to be the guy that stands outside and like looks at the Victorian ghost in the window and just walks back away after I see it.
Yep.
That's good.
Agree.
It's good enough for me. But I think it's seeing a. Yeah, I don't know how common full bodies are, especially to somebody who I don't think I'm sensitive. Maybe I just haven't tried. I don't know how common they are just to everybody. I mean, you said you see them all the time, but you obviously got the door wide open.
Okay, but here's the thing. Everybody has abilities. I'm a firm believer that everybody has limited, ability. We're all born with it. Most sick, like most children, 99% of children are psychic. I've never met an
Mhm.
unpsychic child. Okay. Um, but it's whether you work on it, to present consciousness. So what I tell people is, think about the car that you drive. Okay. Or bicycle, whatever you own, think about the car, the truck that you drive. Now, think about the color, the make, the model. How many of those vehicles did you notice before you purchased yours?
Oh yeah, it's
How many did you notice after? It's a conscious awareness, a present conscious awareness that changes how you download the information. Not everybody sees the same way that I see. That doesn't make me better. That just makes me different. Some people are only clairaudient, which means they only hear spirits. That means you're not going to see them. Some people can just see, they can't hear. Some people can only download the information through automatic writing or scrying. So it's not necessarily whether you are psychic or not, it's how you download your information. Once you get a handle on how that information is downloaded, then you can build from there.
You're not the first one I've had tell me that anybody can do it. It's very intriguing, because some recommend that if you want to get into that, to get the ESP practicer, where you predict the next number. So it's kind of exercise that muscle and then move on to the next step, where you would, I guess, eventually astral project. I think that's what they were talking about. I don't know if that's something you're into as far as that goes.
Astral travel and astral projection, absolutely. Yeah. So we have out-of-body experiences at least 5 to 7 times a month. I know we do have more, but I say that as a minimum. And we do it much more than you think we do. People don't realize how often we do it. We get into dream states, or we're doing it through meditation. Even to the point where you're driving down the road and you think, did I just run that stop sign? Was that a green light? What you don't realize is your consciousness has been taken somewhere else. Okay. And you can still operate your body and function, in your body, but not be in that consciousness. And it's that simple, that you can start to work that way and get into an astral projection, astral travel, where you're doing interdimensional shifts.
There's nothing like time traveling to work. You wake up, how do you get there? Like, how did I get there?
Right.
Like, I forgot the entire trip. Now, I have tried the where you try to, when you lay down at night to try to get into that OBE. I've got to the part where you start shaking, and then I wake up. That's the weirdest thing, because it feels like the world is just coming apart.
So the shaking is your body short-circuiting. So your body's thinking you're dying. Okay. A lot of sleep paralysis is this way as well. People kind of mistake sleep paralysis for demonic entities holding them down, or they'll say there was a shadow being holding me down, I couldn't move. That's you. That's your spirit coming back into your body, or going out of your body, and your body short circuits and thinks it's dying. And so it's jolting, and you're seeing kind of your spiritual entity in front of you, and it's short circuiting. And so I tell people, if you have that moment where you can't move, take a couple breaths, wait a couple seconds, and you'll notice you'll be able to start to move again. If it's something demonic, a few seconds, it's going to be minutes. It's going to feel like hours. Okay. You're going to pick up smells. You're going to pick up sounds. You're going to pick up, there's a lot more going on. But I often tell people, just be patient, because that sleep paralysis or that shaking feeling will start to subside.
It's so weird too. It feels just like I think when I did it, it lasted for about 2 seconds, and it wasn't just like I'm falling kind of jolt. Nope. It was literally, I felt I woke up. Well, I about had it. I almost felt like that was enough for me. So I almost did that. Won't try that again for a while.
Yeah, well, congratulations. You moved on to the next step.
I'm scared. I'm the type of guy who would try something so much that I would probably get it right and be really good at it.
Why not?
I'd get obsessed with it. Mindy had another question.
But that's a great statement, because again, when you're astral projecting, you're leaving your consciousness in your body's idling empty, like an idling car. And if you don't lock your doors, any stranger can get in and drive away, or climb in the back seat. So I really encourage people, if you decide to do this stuff, if you're doing astral projection, meditation, out of body experiences, that you're making sure that you're protected while your consciousness is out of your body.
How would you go about protecting yourself like that?
Well, behind me, I have a lot of salt lamps. So this isn't just for show. I use these every day. I have crystals that I use on a regular basis with me. I'm a big crystal user. I believe that having stuff like this helps it to bring things in. Salt lamps are really great for deionizing ions. They not only do they clean the atmosphere, the air, but they also clean the energy around you. And salt is pure. So it's, you'll oftentimes hear people talk about spreading salt around to keep evil entities at bay. It works. So surrounding yourself in that, having a salt bath before you decide to meditate, or a salt shower, where when you shower, you take a little bit of time and use a little bit of salt. Now, I have, let's see, where is it? Where's a piece of salt? So right here is a piece of salt that you could take in the shower and use to do cleansings with. It often works. Okay. If you can't use that, you can just soak in table salt, and that will help as well. But I oftentimes will do the salt bath before I do that type of meditation or astral projection.
That's a good idea. Yeah. little preemptive strike there.
Mhm.
And yeah, Mindy actually just asked, "What's the best way to protect yourself if you end up in a paranormal situation and you don't yet
Okay,
if it has bad intentions?" Give me
same
your
way.
cold, I think.
Yep, nope, same way. I use, let me see, do I have it with me? I use a lot of stuff, so I've got stuff with me all the time. But crystals, again, I use lots of crystals. Here's one fiery wall of protection. So this has actually been made by a Wiccan priestess. I use a lot of that. I use hoodoo voodoo. We use a lot of saging stuff, singing bowls, smudge pots. So we do a lot of sage, Palo Santo, stuff like that. Really, really good. And any amulets you take with you. So I have, for example, one of my toe rings is crosses. I keep I keep different things on me to make feel like I'm protected. Again, making sure that you're doing a buddy system when you're going in and doing a paranormal investigation. It's really important that if you start to change, if your attitude, if your your facial features, if things start to change, your characteristics, it's important that somebody else witnesses these things. And then you can remove yourself from the location for a little while, walk outside. But those are things that you could do. Take holy water with you. There's all sorts of things that you can do.
Does that happen? Like people's facial features change physically in the
Absolutely.
middle of this stuff? That's crazy. What
Mhm.
what would like the most common thing to happen like in that particular
So
situation?
I had a scenario where it wasn't an investigation, but it was a reading, and it was malevolent in nature. And I had met the woman. It was a little bit of both. So the woman had asked me to come in and do an investigation. I said I would meet her for the preliminary and kind of get a read on her first and kind of feel her out, because unfortunately, there are a lot of people that suffer from mental illness as well. And what this woman had been speaking about, it was a very thin line of whether this was schizophrenia or this was actually something paranormal in nature. And so I wanted to meet with her. I am not a medical professional, but I certainly didn't want to put myself in a place of vulnerability. And so I met with the lady, and we were sitting talking at a coffee shop. And beautiful, beautiful girl, beautiful blonde hair, beautiful green eyes. She was telling me her problems, what was going on. And I said to her, I noticed her eyes had a shift in them. And I said to her, I could feel it. I could feel the energy. And I said, tell me something. How do you feel when you look at me? And I started to put the pressure on her. And I said, tell me, how do you feel? And she all of a sudden snapped out of her chair. The chair went flying. She slapped her hands onto the coffee table, like the cafe table. And she said, actually, I'd like to slit your bleeping throat right now. And everybody in the coffee shop stopped dead. They were like, what just happened here? I was saying to you, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. And I grabbed the chair and I sat it back down. I sat her back down, and she started to shake. She was violently shaking. And she's grabbed her head and she said, I'm so sorry. Why would I say that? Why would I say that? And I said, it's okay. Calm down. It's okay. And when she looked up at me, her eyes were blue. She had blue eyes the whole time. This entity that was inside of her, that was causing many issues in her house and her children, it actually was a partial possession, and it actually changed the color of her eyes. And when I mean green, I don't mean they kind of went green and kind of went purple. I mean totally different eyes.
Wow.
Yep.
So did that kind of end her thing, or is it?
Well,
we ended
up having to go in and do a cleansing, and she fought with it for a couple months. The important thing is when somebody has an attachment like that, when if you feel that you have an attachment and you contact me and say, Katie, I need help. I don't know what's going on. I need help. That's a beautiful thing that you're contacting somebody that's knowledgeable, but it's also relinquishing your power, because you don't feel that you have the intent, you have the power to do it yourself. And that's why the attachment is there, because it senses your weakness. Okay, it's gotten in somewhere. An attachment needs an invitation, consciously or subconsciously. So what I do is when I meet with these people and I do these cleansings or clearings for people, I teach them how to do it, because it's them that has to say, get out of here. It's them that has to have the power and the active intent to push this thing and banish it away. So what I did was I taught her how to kind of take care of herself, we went through the cleansing process together. I showed her how to do it. I left her with some stuff, and she's still clear as today.
So did you leave her with like sage and crystals? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Yep. So
what do you think sage does in that situation? I've heard so many people talk about it and use it.
So sage. So I've got some white sage right here. So sage. I use different things for different reasons. Okay. So I look at sage like gasoline. White sage, there's regular, mid-range, and premium gasoline, right? Or supreme. White sage would be like your regular gasoline. So in a regular, scenario where you need to cleanse, I often suggest white sage. When you're getting up into the higher octanes, so the better versions of things, or the stronger, more potent things, the highest would be blue sage with dragon's blood. So it's a little bit of a different formula. And dragon's blood is an incense, so it's kind of doubling up. But I also use mugwort. I also use cinnamon. I also use cedar. I also use Palo Santo. I also use frankincense and myrrh. I use salt. There's many different things. In some scenarios, I will use red brick dust for cleansings, or I will use eggshells. If it's a hoodoo voodoo, I'll use eggshells. So it really depends on what you're dealing with. Going back to white sage is good for cleansing negative energy, not necessarily negative entities. So, say you've had a funeral home. A funeral home is not a happy place. It's a sad place. People come in and mourn. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of that sadness can be left behind, because when you project it into the walls, it absorbs, and sometimes it can replay, or it can permeate out of the walls in terms of energy. White sage is really good for cleansing that. I'm not saying it doesn't get rid of entities. It can, but like any sticky stain, right? When you have a scenario where you've dropped water on the floor, a paper towel will get it up. Mm-hmm. But if you have a sticky stain that's been there for weeks, a paper towel ain't going to cut it. You need to get your elbow grease and your cloths and your cleaners and get down into the nitty-gritty to get that cleaned up. The same thing goes for different cleansing principles and what you use.
Okay, I've always been curious about that. Even on the Skinwalker show, the Native American came there that used to live there as a boy. He got the sage out. He brought it with him.
Yep, and it works. It's ceremonial. It absolutely works. I'm not saying it doesn't work, but I use different things for different scenarios. Mm-hmm.
It's just wild how that kind of stuff seems to be across the board with different cultures.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I don't understand why we are the first culture to just ignore the supernatural, like it's some kind of parlor trick, when other ones have clearly, like 100 years ago, there were giants walking around, or people could actually talk about them.
You got it. And there have been sightings very recently of the giants again, actually. Really? Yes, there have. There's been a few reports now. They've caught it on camera on tops of mountaintops. Yes, there's been 2 or 3 different scenarios.
We sort of deduced that about the time the military-industrial complex started cranking up, right after TR's administration, that's when they started doing the low vibration things down to where we couldn't see it anymore. Mm-hmm. Almost around turning. So my brain says 1908. I don't know why I go straight to that number.
Maybe it's your psychic ability.
Yeah. But like when I started looking into the Tartarian mud flood, I know that's probably kind of not true, but that's a kind of like whenever that stuff stopped, like Nikola Tesla, whenever he got squashed, that's whenever they started feeding us that low vibration crap where we can't sense anything.
Yep. I think also not only do I think that it is like that, I agree with you, but I also think it comes down to indoctrination in what we're watching today, and bringing us into more of a physical presence, right? It's very 3D. I mean, look at the Mandela effect. I mean, there's been time and time again how proven the Mandela effect. It like we have proof, and they're still saying that there's just a missed memory, or it's so it doesn't matter how much we can physically prove on a pseudoscience. Scientists are going to call it pseudoscience.
Until they got a body, there's not going to be a Bigfoot.
Exactly. But will they have a body? I'm a firm believer that Bigfoot is an elemental. I think it's an energy.
I think by definition he has to be.
Yeah.
I think he's flesh and blood when he's here.
Yep.
But he can no clip like nobody's business. Oh yeah, here's Mindy. We were talking about that 1945 with the fluoride.
Yeah.
A lot of people are blaming the fluoride on that.
Okay, so I agree with you. However, what about all the farm people? What about all the years ago with the farm people? I grew up on a well, an artesian well. There's no fluoride in that water. So does that mean, is that why I'm able to see things better than some people? I don't know. But some of the best psychics I've ever met grew up in the city. So, I think there's a lot of things that come in. I'm not disagreeing with the fluoride thing. I agree with that. But I think that there's a lot of factors involved.
Maybe that's why I've been obsessed with paranormal since I was little for no reason. I grew up on a well.
There you go.
way out there.
Mhm.
Scotty B had this one saying his grandmother passed away and feels her in her house. He smells a perfume.
Beautiful.
I think that
That's
happened to me one
beautiful.
time. I didn't want to talk about it.
So that's a
I think
beautiful thing. The
yeah.
fact that she can come through and let you know that that's her, that's beautiful. You have to remember, they're not physical. They don't have voice boxes. They can't, they're having perfume bottle to spray. They're able to create that energy for you to pick up. That's strong and that's beautiful.
1956 fluoride in toothpaste.
Right?
1970s. Well, I did have toothpaste growing up, contrary to popular belief about my home state. We have teeth, even though I'm missing two because of freaking cavities that sparked inside. I don't know what that's about, but whatever.
Sorry to hear that.
Talk about get addicted to ibuprofen. So, I was going to ask you whenever you have someone, have you just had more? You've had more than one person come back and talk to you, not just your grandfather. I'm sure it's a plethora.
Oh yeah. Oh
Has
yeah.
any of them talked about what it's like over there? Like what's
Yeah.
happening on the other side? I've always want to know that. I always ask it every time.
Yes. So I have to go back to my grandfather because he's around all the time. But he, God love him. Shortly after he died, he actually came to me in a dream, and he said to me, Katie, you're describing it wrong. And I said, what do you mean by that? And he said, Death, you're describing it wrong. And I said, okay. And he said, it's not a tunnel. There's no tunnel. There's not a tunnel of light like we describe it. It's a shift from one dimension to the other. So it appears to be a tunnel or a light, but it's really just the shift. Okay. And he said, and in between that is like basically nothing. And the shift occurs. So he described that for me. I've had so many entities tell me that death is different for each and every one of them. Some feel like they're sucked out of their body. Some people feel like they step out of their body. Some people feel like they have, it was quick. Some people describe it as like floating in water, suspended in water. Some people have described it as getting on a boat and, sailing away, or getting on a train and taking the rail away. It just depends on the person, but they all tell me that it's beautiful, it's warm, and I don't mean warm as in temperature. I mean it's warm. There's love. Nobody that I know of in all the thousands and thousands of readings that I've ever conducted, and people I've had the pleasure of meeting in life and in death, have told me that it was a bad experience. They all tell me it's a beautiful experience. Some of them are disoriented. What happens when you die and you cross over, you go through an orientation process where you go through an awakening. So your higher level of consciousness starts to remember and wake up. We suffer from amnesia on this side because we're only supposed to be focused on this life. We're not supposed to be focused on all the other lives, right? So they get rid of our memory from all the past lives in order for us to focus on this one. And so when you cross over, that reorientation process or that waking up is kind of overwhelming sometimes. So we go through that process. But to explain the process of crossing over is I tell people it's like an airplane terminal or a train station. And we've all had those dreams where we're in a mall or we're in that station and there's groups of people. We don't know where we are, who we're with, but we're on our way somewhere. This is the same. This is basically what it is that you're getting ready to transition, and you're going to these places, and you're getting ready to cross over. And it's at that point guides will receive you, people will receive you, and you go in, and that's when you look at your life.
So it's the guides who are just me being basic about it. It's the guides of people who died too early. Like, do you want to go back or not? That's the ones who are giving them that.
Well, guides, yes. So everybody has a job on the other side. So it's not, we're not all sitting on a cloud. We do have jobs on the other side, and part of those jobs are preparing and going to school to go through the descension process and reincarnate. But when you're on the other side, there are different things that you have to be doing, and some people are welcoming people. Some people are helping people with orientation. But guides are people who are done reincarnating. They're no longer in this atmosphere, this earth, and they are now helping guide others on the other side. So they're guiding us. So we all have guides in life, and they're helping us. Now, guides can't do things without your permission. They can only guide you, right? So that's part of their learning lesson.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I've wondered. I like part of who the guides were, how who it is that's telling people it's not yet your time, go back, get back in the body in the ambulance. And what happens when somebody like gets blown up, like instantly turned to pink mist? What happens? How do they transition? That's what I've wondered that one as well.
So I have my husband's part of the Canadian Forces, so you know, I'm very, very, very well versed in that. We've had soldiers that have unfortunately never made it home. God rest their soul. And any traumatic scenario like that, you know, I want people to know that most of the time, God or the higher power, the universal consciousness, takes away your pain. You don't experience the pain.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Pain is something that we experience in this plane, not in that plane. So, you know, people say, you know, did it hurt with the children? And most of the time they tell me, no, there was no pain. Pain is what we experience usually when we're supposed to be having a learning lesson or a wake-up call in this life. Okay. The pain is there for a reason. It's not just to cause you pain. It's here for a reason. Those pink mist moments, those traumatic moments, you know, there's confusion at death. And sometimes that's when people don't cross over. That's when the haunting occurs, is that they don't know they're dead, or, you know, they're afraid, and they didn't get closure. They weren't able to say goodbye. And so sometimes that transition's hard for them, but they don't experience the pain.
Oh yeah, that's what I was wondering. Cause just in my mind particularly, I work with the EOD and the bomb squad, and as by trade, or I used to. I haven't in a couple of years. So I've known a couple of people that went out that way, and I always wondered, like, if you instantly disintegrated, there's no chance for the, you know, the usual paperwork to be filed, so to speak.
Well, time
Like
is what we look at this side,
instantly.
right?
Yeah.
But time is what is perceived here. There's really no such thing as time. So when you're dealing with that, you know, what you think of as a lifetime or a second, millisecond, there's nothing like that on the other side, right? So you're already over there doing what you need to do. You're already going through the welcoming committee, and getting reorientated if you had crossed over.
All right, so that kind of makes me feel better for some reason. I've wondered that scene on the Hurt Locker where he picks up that IED and he just disintegrates. All I think about is like, does he just stand there as a ghost after it happens, or what? Like, what the?
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes you're disoriented for a few seconds. You're like, what's happening? Quite honestly, what's more traumatic is when you have gone through a scenario like that. You've been pulled out of your body, but you're not dead yet. And so there's a tetherment to your body, and you're laying there in a coma, and you're watching yourself in your body, and you don't know how to get back in. That is far more painful than instant death and moving on.
Okay.
So I've had scenarios
looking
in
at yourself
hospital.
as a vegetable.
You got it. I've had scenarios where I've been in hospitals for appointments and have had entities where I've had to have that conversation. You know, you have to go back in. You can go back in. I'll explain how to go back in, or you have to cross over. But staying like this is only going to hurt you and your body. And so it's at that point that they choose to come or go.
It's got to be rough.
It's got
to be more traumatizing.
Yeah, you never die alone. That's something that I try to comfort people with. You never die alone. Somebody always comes for you, always. So that gentleman that passed away that you were worried about, you know, died instantly. Somebody who comes for him. It's your choice whether you want to go or stay.
All right. Yep. The thing I was talking about was actually in a movie, but I wonder like when that happened to people. I'm thinking that's got to be like standing there. It's not to make light of the subject. It's got to be like standing there wearing a towel and somebody pulls a towel off of you. Like what?
Yep. Agreed. But it's like that for everybody. Death is like that for everyone. Okay. The again, time is perceived is here. It's a perception. Another thing is what people don't realize is when you reincarnate, you may go back to 1500. It's not linear. You're not going to go to 2025.
Really?
You may go back to 1700 or 400 AD. Our souls reincarnate. Time is all happening simultaneously. So think of China right now. Think of Russia. It's a totally different time. You're in a different time zone than I'm in a different time zone, but we are literally occupying the same time. Okay, it's perception, and so really, on a cosmic level, we're dealing with that perception at a faster rate.
I have often wondered if that was possible because, you know, obviously it's not. There's no time there, but I've often wondered if you could go back and experience it in different areas to get the different lesson that you needed to become the ultimate warrior on the other side, or however.
Yep. What do you think good ideas came from?
Yeah. You never know. I always sit and think about things like that nobody else thinks of. I should probably be getting my job done at work, but instead I'm worrying about what dinosaurs are doing right now. Like, you think the T-Rex is thinking of me?
I just hope the T-Rex isn't going to eat me.
Maybe not. All right, this has been amazing. I was going to ask. I had two more things. Do you ever have any dealings with like what's the word for it? Talking. I'm going to say talking to aliens. Do you ever talk? Have you ever had dealings with talking to aliens?
So I have had experiences with extraterrestrials. Yes, I have. I
Okay.
have had experiences with extraterrestrials. I had a couple experiences with an extraterrestrial trying to do its, I say its best, do his best to project as a human. I've also had UFO experiences or been witness to things in the sky. I'll be honest with you, the amount that I know about extraterrestrial and origin things is the amount to fill a thimble. It is intimidating to me, but I have had those experiences. Yes.
It just seems like they travel on almost the same path as like the elementals and things do.
Absolutely, it's
They
a
have the
common
same
denominator.
technology.
It's all energy. All of it
It's
is energy. Yeah.
And all you hear about from people is that they're eons old and they're part of like like you said, the energy of the world. Instead of
Yes.
being just little grays, like little grays are drones, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, I agree.
All right, this has been amazing. Just hit an hour. I don't want to keep you any longer. I know it's the frozen tundra up there in Canada.
You know what? I can honestly say we don't have any snow right now. Where I live in Ontario on the Quebec border, and there's no snow here. But it's calling for snow this week, so who knows?
Sportsman's paradise.
You got it.
That's what Dan Aykroyd called it.
Yeah.
Welcome to Ontario.
Yes, sir.
There's one more thing I was going to ask you, since you are the psychic medium type, and it's probably I don't want to say like some of the wilder ones that maybe be charlatans tell me, but I always ask if like we think my building at work is haunted. We don't know. So I always ask anybody who has any kind of ability if they can, like, I guess for lack of a better, sense it. Like, I don't know if it's something you can do from like remotely.
Okay. So the first thing that I pick up is I pick up one door opens, another door closes. That's the first thing that I get is opening and closing of doors. That's the first thing I see. I don't know if this is work or home, but I also get a motion light. So I would see something to do with something motion camera or motion light that goes on and off. And I can hear I hear hollering, almost like somebody going hello, and there's nobody there. Yeah, those are the things that I pick up on.
Oh, not far off. We do have the motion lights. I don't know about. I had one. She was telling me she did kind of the remote thing. They were telling me things that were kind of freaked me out, but I don't know. I don't know if I was being cold read or not. I'm very hypersensitive to it. I'm like, I just don't want. Well, I wanted to buy into it because I want to believe. I'm real fascinated by it. But the first thing she said was these blinking lights, and anytime the power goes off, the lights will blink because they're recharging, and it freaked me out so bad. I was back here in my back room. It turned 20 degrees. I was like, oh my God.
So I encourage you. You have to ask intelligent questions, and I don't mean you ask intelligent. I mean get intelligent answers. So don't be afraid to ask. If it's blinking, ask it to do it again. Ask it to do something. Ask it to move something. Ask it to try and get intelligent answers. If it's just going to blink, then you know it's the power outage.
Yeah,
you have to debunk a lot of this stuff too, right? I hear one door opens, another door closes. So it's almost like they don't open simultaneously, but it's like one door opens, another door closes. It's hard to describe, but to me, it's not the same door. It's like it's playing with two doors. It's the only way I can describe it to you. I can hear hello, almost like it would be, I don't want to call it a customer, but somebody coming in that's not there asking for assistance, and you come around the corner like, can I help you? Or is there something I can do? That kind of that's what I pick up from people, and there's nobody there.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, you never know. What started it is when we first built the building. We built it. It was an old building we refurbished. And when we first was over there, and there was a wall behind me, kind of like basically as far as this wall, it basically kind of looked like the wall behind me now. But I heard what sounded like my boss sitting back there and typing, and I started having a conversation. Like, when somebody's behind you, you're not looking at him like, hey, what's about. And I stood up to say something else to him, and he wasn't there. And he walked in 10 minutes later. I'm like, Who was doing that? And I was like the only other person there. This sounded just like somebody typing up an email. It freaked me out. And so the lady who I was telling you, whose mom was sensitive, she worked there too. And she kept saying that she would feel something walk by her. And every one of us has felt like we saw something walk to the refrigerator.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. No. Pay attention to that. Oh, look out this window. It's snowing. How bad you I guess I spoke too soon. Great.
We
Thanks,
willed it. We manifested that shit. Yeah, that's yeah. I didn't want to insult you by asking that. To be honest, I didn't know. I don't want to be like, hey, do a parlor trick, but I'm curious about it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help that one time I worked late and I turned on all the lights and ran to the door. I was hauling ass out of there. I was like, crap, if they're right, I'm fitting followed right now.
So here's the thing. They sense fear. They're going to sense your weakness. So they're going to be more attracted to you because they sense that. They're getting that out of you. Don't be afraid. How many years have you worked at that location?
3, where I'm at now.
Has it hurt you yet?
No.
Then don't worry about it.
I'm the only one that hurts myself there.
There you go.
Get myself freaked out about it for no reason because I'm got an overactive imagination.
Yeah. So you don't stress about that stuff. That's what changes your EMF, and that's what brings things in.
That's good to know. Let's kind of chill out a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have an overactive imagination sometimes.
I think we all do.
That's a good thing. Yeah, I think I want things to happen.
Well, you know what? Don't be afraid to put an audio recorder out there and start asking some questions.
I should do it. I keep I'm the only one really allowed to have the audio video stuff in that building because of where it is. So I should probably do it.
Yeah.
All right. We'll go ahead and wrap up. I was going to mention your shows when we first introduced you, but we can do it now. It's your website is katieturnerpsychic.com. That's got all your stuff on it too. That's a good website. I about stole some code off of it.
Well, thank you.
And what's the other your Facebook show? Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so I have every Sunday night at 8 p.m. Standard Eastern Time. I have a really cool interactive paranormal podcast. Actually, my friend Richard Roehl is the host. I'm his co-host. And every Sunday night we talk about all things paranormal. So, last Sunday we had a crystal guru on. He came on, Greg Laughing Boys, wonderful crystal guy, knows his stuff inside and out, kind of gave us a training session on all things crystal related. This Sunday night, we're having another gentleman come on from 28 Days Haunted. So each week, we don't have guests every single week, but Richard and I talk about all things paranormal, safety practices, different types of equipment, different occurrences, different things to look for, orbs, anomalies, all that stuff. So, it's very interactive like your show. It's broadcasted on a few different networks. So if you want to check us out, come join us.
Yeah, I watched a few minutes of it. Oh, we got spam in the chat. Crap. Anyway, I watched about 10 minutes of that today, and I thought it was pretty interesting. I had a little bit of time during my lunch break. And what is the T&E? The where the other show you're on, the Paranormal Survivor?
So I was on all 5 seasons of Paranormal Survivor as a paranormal psychic expert. I hate the word expert, but that's what they labeled me. So, I don't believe anybody's an expert in the field. So basically, each case they talked about, I just kind of gave my 2 cents for it. And so they finished filming that. And then I did My Paranormal Nightmare, which was, basically talking about how I got into paranormal and how it happened as a kid, and they filmed that. And Paranormal Survivor. Or I'm sorry, let's talk about it.
Oh yeah, I was wondering what the channel T&E. I've never heard of that before.
T&E's Travel and Escape. So Destination America, the Travel Channel. It's the Canadian affiliate.
Okay, that may have been my next question. I was wondering. I'm like, I've never heard of T&E. I've heard of A&E and Travel. I may have to look that up. I bet it's on YouTube.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, I appreciate it. I'll let you go and get back to what you were doing, and appreciate you for coming on. And I'm going to reach out to Richard. I may message you for his contact information.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me, Bobby. I really appreciate it. I had a blast.
Oh yeah, and if I get big enough, I'll come on your show too.
Sounds good to me.
What is it? All right, take it easy.
Thank you.
All right.